With the recent growth in Pokemon card prices, a lot of people are asking the questions, are Pokemon cards too expensive right now? And how exactly does Pokemon cards stack compared to other collectibles as a storage of value? We're going to be tackling those questions as well as going over some of the latest Pokemon sales in today's episode of Pokemon Investment News. Let's start it off strong by going over some of the latest large sales in Pokemon cards. And the first big one that I have on my list is a Legendary Collection Booster Box, just sold recently for $18,000. This is so ridiculous because Legendary Collection was considered one of the worst set for Pokemon cards when it was released. It was a set that was made off of complete reprints. There were almost no new cards as far as I can remember for Legendary Collection. And a lot of the Pokemon cards were just based off of base set. It was just a reprint of base set. But what does make it stand out is the incredible reverse holographics. And the reverse holographics in Legendary Collection will probably never be beat because they are just so blingy. These cards are insanely outrageous as far as Pokemon cards go. They almost don't look like Pokemon cards anymore. They're just so glittery. And these cards, you get one of them in every single pack. There's no way to really weigh it. So any single pack can have a holographic reverse Legendary Collection Charizard. And that card is insanely expensive. So it's one of those sets that's going to continue to increase in value. It's got Charizard in it. Anyone can pull it. Any pack of Legendary Collection can have a holographic reverse Charizard. It's not something that you can weigh out. So incredible set. If you guys ever want one, I would recommend picking up a Legendary Collection booster pack. They're still pretty affordable as far as things go. Expensive, but still within the range of affordability. To give you guys some other recent figures, a Legendary Collection booster box sold in 2017, June of 2017, for $3,800. So that was 3 years ago, and the box was $4,000 about. Another one sold in September 2018 for $8,000. So right there you can see the sort of the trend line. It was a $4,000 booster box in 2017. It was an $8,000 booster box in 2018. And now it's an $18,000 booster box in 2020. And I don't think it's reached the peak of its value yet. It's still a very popular set. Everyone knows about Legendary Collection because the set is just so iconic now. In the past, it was just considered another reprint of base set, sort of like base set 2. But nowadays, it's got its own identity. It's considered very cool. The set is just very popular right now, and I don't think that's going to stop. I don't see any reason why the booster box can't reach prices of $30,000, $40,000, even $50,000 in the next year or two. Just because other booster boxes are also rising in price, it's just going to go with the flow. A first edition base set booster box is well over $100,000 right now. So Legendary Collection is sort of an in-betweener. It's very popular. It's not the number one. It's not the worst by far. It'll probably reach $30,000 to $50,000 in the next couple of years. Another recent huge sales in the booster box category was a Neo Destiny booster box that sold at auction for $14,000. That's another great increase in growth. Neo Destiny booster box a couple of months ago would have probably fetched $7,000, $8,000, and this one sold well over $10,000 easily. $10,000 is usually a very common price barrier for collectibles. Some other common barriers are $100, $1,000. Those are just common barriers that people don't like to pay over. You know, you're willing to pay $99, but once something reaches $100, it triggers something inside of your psychology that makes you don't want to spend that $100. Even though it's only $1 extra, and people recognize that, they are much more willing to buy something for $99 than $100. And here's a Neo Destiny booster box. It broke past the $10,000 price barrier with ease, went into $14,000. And some other major collectibles that recently sold were some Green Wing base set booster boxes sold for $12,000. And I think in my last investment video, I talked about how in the PWCC auction, they sold a booster box, a base set booster box for $8 grand. And I said that was actually a really good price. $8 grand seems ridiculous for a booster box that was selling for $4 grand a couple of months ago. but I knew it was going to be a good price because here you go. Some base set booster boxes selling for $12,000. While it is the green wing variant, it's still insane. Like 12 grand for a base set booster box. Even I'm astonished by these prices because they're just going up so fast. And I know I'm talking about how fast prices are going up, but in general, things are actually slowing down. Prices aren't, going up by the days anymore. Things are actually slowing down. People aren't accepting these new incredibly high prices anymore. And that's to be expected. We might even see a little bit of retraction in the next couple of months with so many shops reopening, PSA is opening, channels from Japan are opening. So there's just gonna be more purchase opportunity. I don't think prices are gonna continue to rise forever at this rate. I would expect slow and steady growth in the future. I don't expect another spike in the next couple of months. So on to the first big question in today's video, which is, are Pokemon cards too expensive? And I think you guys already know my answer. And I am biased because I'm in the hobby, I'm in the know. So my answer is no, I don't think Pokemon cards are too expensive. And I even tried to take a step back and try to look at it from an outsider's point of view. And in general, if you take the most expensive Pokemon cards out of the equation, and there are very few of them, there are very few expensive Pokemon cards. When you say Pokemon cards are expensive, you're talking about a very, very narrow group of Pokemon cards, which are the high-end, the top-notch stuff. In general, in most cases, Pokemon cards are still very, very cheap. Even if you're talking about hyper rare Pokemon cards, they're under $10. Most hyper rare Pokemon cards are under $10. Most ultra rare Pokemon cards are still below $5. You can very easily afford most Pokemon cards. Most Pokemon cards are still very, very cheap. Even if you were to look at the vintage stuff. We're talking about first edition Pokemon cards from the Wizard of the Coast era. They're still very, very affordable. If you take things like Charizard out of the equation, most Pokemon cards well within $10. First edition base set Caterpie, first edition base set Abra, those cards are like, pennies realistically. Even if you're talking about like Jungle set or Fossil set, most of them are still very, very cheap compared to the large grand scheme of things. So yeah, I think Pokemon cards are expensive, but in the grand scheme of things, they're still very cheap, still very affordable. You can still collect the whole entire base set very easily. When you say Pokemon cards are expensive, I would imagine you're talking about something very specific, like the Legendary Collection Booster Box. Is a Legendary Collection Booster Box expensive? Yes, it is expensive, but that is the pinnacle of Pokemon collecting. Like if you're taking the absolute most expensive item, it's gonna be expensive. And my second big point that I want to make on this topic is, can we compare Pokemon cards to some other hobbies? Some other like-minded hobbies, and I know at the end of the day it's going to be an apples and oranges kind of comparison. They're not going to be perfect, but I say some other like-minded comparisons that we can make would be to sports cards like baseball and basketball. That is another very similar hobby because it's also within trading cards. Another one that would be similar would be comic books, because comic books is in the kind of like the pop culture sphere. So comic books and baseball cards and sports cards in general are both over 100 years old. Those hobbies have been around for over 100 years, and there are sports cards and comic books that are in the $1 million. There are $1 million comic books and $1 million sports cards. And that makes total sense. It's a 100-year-old hobby. Pokemon cards is very, very young. As far as a hobby goes, Pokemon cards is very young. It's a 20-year-old hobby. That's nothing in the span of time. In the span of time, 20 years is absolutely nothing. Pokemon cards is still very, very young, and there's just a lot of room for growth. I think Pokemon cards has a long life ahead of it, and prices are going to continue to grow. Cards are expensive now because we're looking in the past. I think if we were to look into the future, I don't see why there won't be $1 million Pokemon cards in the future. First edition base set Charizard in 30 years, it'll probably be a 100K card. Illustrated Pikachu will probably be the first card to break the $1 million barrier, and that will probably happen in the future too. Most people don't think about it, but inflation is also a thing. We just have more money. There's just more money going around. Card prices just aren't the same as what they used to be. So no, I don't think Pokemon cards are too expensive right now. If you still want to be in the hobby, you can. Most cards are still very affordable. Most vintage booster packs are still very affordable. Almost everything that I want to collect in Pokemon card, I've been able to. There's very few things that I want that I haven't been able to achieve. Do I want a first edition booster box? Yes, I want it, but I don't really want it. I don't know what I would do with a first edition booster box. It's not something that I really want to have in my collection. Do I want an Illustrator Pikachu? Yes, I kind of do. But at the same time, it's another card where I'm not super enraptured by. Everything that I've really been into in Pokemon cards, I've been able to afford. So that's why I don't think the hobby is super expensive. I think it's still very affordable for the general public. Jumping off that question into our next question is, how does Pokemon cards compare as a storage of value? And a storage of value is just a fancy term that means an asset that you can sell at a later point in time for money. Other things that are storage of values would be bitcoins, artworks, collectible trading cards, your house, your car. Anything that is not money that you can sell at a later point in time for money is a storage of value. So why am I bringing up this topic? I'm bringing up this topic because a lot of people have been asking me, Jake, I want to get into Pokemon card collecting, but what do I buy? What do I buy so that I don't lose money? Jake, I don't want to lose money. What do I buy? And I think people are, and that's a very tough question to answer. And I think people are looking at it. I don't want to say it in the wrong way, but I want to change some people's perspective. You can't be afraid to lose money in Pokemon cards. I don't care if my Pokemon card collection goes to zero. My Pokemon card collection is very large, but I don't care if it goes to zero. I just enjoy the card. I collect them because I like the cards, I like the artworks, I enjoy the hobby. I will still love my cards even if they are worth nothing. And this is why I have to bring up the topic of storage of value, because I think a lot of people are worried that their Pokemon cards are going to go to zero. And that's not going to happen. And the best way I can compare it to is to other storage of value and how high Pokemon cards I think rate compared to other stuff. And some other examples I'm going to use are Funko Pops, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and Bitcoins, because they're around the same age as Pokemon cards. Pokemon cards have been around for 20 years, and these other stuff have been around for about the same amount of time. If Yu-Gi-Oh cards and Funko Pops and Bitcoins disappear in 5 years, I don't think anyone's going to be surprised. Bitcoin, the technology will continue on. I think blockchain is super cool. I think that is going to continue on. But I think if people heard that Bitcoin's value dropped, Funko Pops went bankrupt, and Yu-Gi-Oh went bankrupt, I don't think people will be surprised. Those are weak brands. They're not well known. They're not established. I don't think they have a lot of leg room. If they were to continue for 20 years, that's completely fine. But I think the riskiness of them disappearing is very, very high because they're just a weaker brand. Pokemon is an absolutely massive brand. It's insanely large. It's super well known and it's super beloved. Pokemon is not disappearing in 5 years. I would be astounded on what could happen to make Pokemon disappear in 5 years. It's just not going to happen. I would compare Pokemon being so iconic and legendary that it's probably going to be sticking around for 100 years. Pokemon will for sure be around for the next 30 years. It just can't disappear. Too many people love it. Too many people enjoy it for it to disappear. So I reiterate, Pokemon is a really great storage of asset. I don't think people think it's as risky as it is. It's not that risky. It's fairly popular. Pokemon cards just aren't going to drop to zero. It just really cannot happen. In general, it's a great storage of value. It's much better compared to other collectibles in the space. I think it's way better than pretty much any other collectible right now. I think Pokemon card will beat in a head-to-head comparison. So I think it's really great. Don't worry too much about losing money. If you're worried about losing money, you're in the wrong hobby. I don't think too much about the money. I know the show is called Pokemon Investment News, but I don't really think too much about the money. If all my Pokemon card asset went to zero, I would still love them. I would still hold on to them, and I might even buy more. I'll probably buy way more stuff if it went to zero. Trust me. So in general, I think people are too worried about collecting. If you're going to worry about losing money, this is probably not the right hobby for you. Collect it because you enjoy it. Collect it because you love it. If you're overthinking yourself on the value, then you're just going to keep yourself up at night. So don't think too much about it. Just enjoy the hobby and have some fun with it. That's all I can really say. All right, everybody, that's the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Do you have any questions or comments? Leave them down in the description. And I pretty much read everything. I answer as many questions as I can. If you have any inquiries at all, you can definitely hit me up and I'll do my best to answer you. I will never say that I'm an expert. I'm not an expert. I'm just another person in the hobby. I have made plenty of mistakes in the past. So yeah, just leave your questions or comments down in the description. And I might do a segment going forward where I just answer viewer questions in the next episode. So that'd be super cool. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.